The 10-minute talent rant is live. I'm James Hornick. I'm joined by Jeff Smith, and we are on the clock. The 10-minute talent rant is our ongoing series where we break down things that are broken in the talent acquisition hiring space, maybe even pitch a solution or two. But before we dig in, remember to subscribe to HireWell's YouTube channel and the Talent Insights podcast, where you can get all of our episodes. Kicking it off, this week's topic, mandatory on-site builds bias, not culture. So I'll lay some groundwork this time. Is that cool?
Please do.
Okay, long story short, there's been a lot of articles, a lot of studies, a lot of stats on this. Remote work worked. We got by just fine. A lot of companies killed it. Record profits. There was not only zero lag on productivity in most office-bound areas, but actually productivity went up. There's studies done on that. So people were more productive, getting more stuff done. And now I'm not one of those people that's completely obtuse to the fact there are downsides, there are challenges, and kind of no matter what your remote work or what your work model is, but saying that returning is a must-do situation is completely insane. Yet a lot of companies are now starting to do it. Chase announced it, Goldman Sachs announced it, a lot of other kind of Fortune 500 companies are falling in line. But the thing that we want to get across in this thing is returning to that old status quo. That old status quo had a lot of bias built into it.
You got to hustle, right?
Yeah. So
hustle. So
go for it, Jeff.
Did you hustle harder in 2020?
100%.
In framing it against any other year, that's the answer. It's 100%. I mean, I think that you said it. It worked. It worked. We all are adults. We all figured out how to do our jobs. And, there's this misconception, I think. I kind of sit in that bucket a little bit where I've been antsy to get back to the office. I've actually gone back to the office. We talked about it a little bit. I was supposed to be in the office, but now I get to do all of this from home today because I just didn't want to wake up, and that's okay. I'm still getting stuff done. Employees are going to tell you what you want to hear, and you're going to have a good subset of people that are going to say, I'm willing to go back on site. I'm willing to do X, Y, Z. They're still talking to recruiters. There's going to be a small piece of this data puzzle that is misrepresenting how excited they are and how cool they are with going back to the office.
Yeah, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. But anyways, I also think that there's this idea that the fear that the cultural fabric of your company is going to erode if you're not in the same location. I'm just like, come on. Like, companies care about profits. It's and productivity. As much as companies want to say they care about culture, not that many really do. I've read enough bad Glassdoor reviews to know, plug for my side project, to know it's all nonsense. That's why I just can't take a lot of it seriously. And I think there's other things going on. But let's talk about the bias aspect first. Let's just kind of break that down for everyone. Why don't you, Jeff, kind of take the first point here?
Yeah. So, I think that the most visible bias is the kind of the gender stereotypes, right? The caregivers for children, how it equates to the pay gap, how kind of the status quo, was kind of busted in this, right? Like, I think that it lends itself to going back to a system that invariably kind of favored male employees because we traditionally aren't associated with the primary caregivers, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it's not just about managing, or I guess I say managing instead of raising because I don't have any kids.
It's management.
It's not just kids though. It's all kinds of people I've talked to might have other family members with special needs. They might have aging or sick parents or other siblings or other things going on in their lives. There might be, they might be dealing with, children who have certain kind of special needs, or they themselves. It's also got as like a second note. It's also ableist, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that might have, personal conditions that I'm sure they can get to the office if they absolutely need to, but it's not convenient. They can still get the job done. It's always been kind of set work locations have always been kind of, have an ableist aspect to it. And, like I said, can they make it work if they really needed to? I'm sure they could. Is it convenient? Is it pro-employee? Hell no.
Yeah. In my plug on LinkedIn, I wrote Are we all, are manufacturers like, building truck chassis from home? No. Like that. Can you make 25 client calls from home? Yeah, you can. Everybody can. I think that, the other big thing that gets buried a little bit is the role bias. We see it all the time. You've got, everybody's got to come back, except for the tech workers, except for the software engineers.
They can do whatever they want.
They're
a separate class of employee.
Yeah. But we make fun of it, and it is funny. But there is a class system there. It's just because supply and demand is fabricated by the market. You're all of a sudden making exceptions for somebody with a certain skill set. And I would argue that that's just as destructive to culture as anything else, if not more so.
Yeah. Why is it all happening? Like I think there's a few different aspects to it, but at some level, I think it's a power trip thing. There's a lot of people kind of in management that they want to be able to see that people are working for them. And it's as simple as that. I think there's a certain mentality that, you can look at the numbers on the page and you can know that what the data is telling you that things are working. But you know what? I just felt better knowing that everyone who reports to me is here, and I'm bending them to my will, that they're going to have to make it in every day, and I'm going to watch them hustle.
Yeah. Even if that's not your intent, it still feels that way from an individual contribution perspective. It's hard to get people to change their thinking, right? Bottom line. I think the definition of success when most C-level people started was be at your desk. Right? It was for me. My first couple of jobs, it was be there from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and I could make it for the 3 hours that I was there and be overproducing by X amount of percent over my peers. And if I left at 5:45 to go to the Cubs game because I just moved to Chicago, it was frowned upon. It just comes down to sometimes change just doesn't feel right for some folks. And, you get stuck doing it the old way just because it's the way it's always been done. And that can be really destructive.
All right. Let's talk fixes. Coming up we're at the 2.5 minute warning here.
Yeah. Be a better employer, guys. It sounds silly, sure, but treat people like adults. It's as simple as that. If you're, instead of micromanaging somebody's day, over and over and over again, give them something to do and let them do it. Give them something small, low stakes, let them fail, let them gain the experience, because those are the things that are going to make somebody's job more challenging and inherently more fun.
I think a key thing is you just have to trust the data, trust the science that we've been saying for a year now. Some data points. So ProtoScore, they just showed some research. Every single month of 2020 across the board was more productive than 2019. Every month. And some months it was 200%, some months it was 4%. But if you want to go back to the old way, you are literally saying we want to be less productive according to what the actual stats tell us. The second point, the workday actually expanded for everyone last year in 30 minutes in every direction. The average person got their day started 30 minutes sooner. They work 30 minutes longer. Why? Because they don't have to commute anymore. It's just wasted time in a train or a car, or however you get there, which your employees could actually be contributing to what they're doing. And I think that last thing too is there was another survey from JobFlex. 1/3 of people actually a third of workers saved $5,000 last year working remote. I mean, you're talking about cost of commute, cost of meals, cost of childcare, cost of all the clothing they didn't need. That's not even taking into the fact how much more companies spend by getting all this extra office space and equipment and perks and snacks and stuff like that. So it's just doesn't make a lot of sense.
How much are we going to get for our chairs, James?
Yeah, seriously.
Look, it's going to hurt. Bottom line, all other organizations are on board doing this. So even if 20% of your sector is going remote, that's 20% more jobs that are going to be available to your workforce. So full stop, it's just going to be more accessible to the people that are working on your front lines.
Yeah. Your employees, they might be saying all the right things and I'm on board, but I'm telling you guys, they're looking. But anyways, we're short on clock. So that's a wrap for this week. Thanks for tuning into the 10-Minute Talent Rant, part of the Talent Insights series, which will always be available for replay on the Hirewell YouTube channel, as well as the Talent Insights podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon. Jeff, thanks again as always. Everyone out there, we'll see you soon.